Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I am excited for today's episode, part two, 0 to 100, positive or negative. Here's a quote before I introduce our guest. Hope, in reality, is the worst of all evils because it prolongs the torments of man.
Whoa, 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 whoa. So what?
Our guest today is a hopeful man. A staple of the Culture Matters podcast, a friend, a leader, a man of courage, a righteous man. Andrew Berman, thank you for coming back
Always
to the
great to be
culture.
back. By the way, I just, hope is not a strategy. The commonly used thing whenever anyone talks about I hope to be there, but without actually a plan of attack, hope is just dreams.
You think
Dreams.
that's what he's trying to say? Or part you never know with this guy because there's so many ways to look at these thoughts, but
I I I think I'm also and when I hear the word hope, that's where my mind automatically goes to. So like you can be talking about something else, but if I'm hearing hope, like I just like hope to me is like faith without really believing. That's just what my feeling about, I think, faith is you believe something is going to happen. It's not just you hope it's going to happen. You believe it in your heart. Hope is just something. Yeah, I wish. Hope is basically a wish. That's my feeling whenever I hear hope.
because it prolongs the torments of man.
Because you're not taking action on the whatever you hope is going to happen. You don't have the faith that something is going to change, and you don't have a plan of action to make this wish, aka hope, a reality. So yeah, it's just you're just going to sit there and because if you hope that you double your sales this year, um what do you think is going to happen if I start off at the beginning of the year and say I hope I double sales this year, and then at the end of the year, what's going to happen? But if you say to yourself, I have faith that I can double sales this year, well, there's a greater chance actually it's going to happen if you say I have faith I am actually going to double sales this year in spite of a down market or whatever obstacles are facing me. Also, I have a plan on how I can get there. Well, there's a greater chance. Now, if you take that plan and match it with a set of goals of things that you can control, goals not like dollar goals, because you can't control when someone says yes or no, but you can control how many times you pick up the phone. You can control how many meetings you go to, how many social posts you do, how many podcasts you do. But so if you put all of those things together, then this hope now has faith and a strategy, and there's a pretty good chance you're gonna turn that hope into a reality.
What about this? I seek the anxiety necessary to succeed.
I mean, if you're comfortable where you are, you're not you're not anxious. I mean, that's what I feel. Like I feel like, for me, um I am most productive when I'm anxious, and that could be because of fear of going back, or just excited about this about this thing where I'm going to, this destination that I know I'm going to make. So that's my interpretation of that.
Hmm. Where do you see anxiety and action, or anxiety and excitement, the relationship between anxiety and excitement?
Where do we see relationship between anxiety, excitement? I mean, it's energy. I mean, the anxiety is energy, and that anxiety can potentially paralyze you, or it can excite you. You know, it's how you deal with that energy. I believe
Hmm.
that's that's to me actually how I'm interpreting that.
Angst can lead us to not moving or running,
Yeah.
stagnation. Now that's interesting, because if you think about, if angst is coming from the unknown, right? You mentioned that contentment.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be comfortable when things are taken from us or things change we weren't ready for, like the market,
Yeah.
the cost of money going up. So then what? Now less people are calling us. If we'll specifically talk about those facilitating mortgages for the last X amount of years, if the rate's higher, there's less people calling and saying, get me that house, or get me that rate. Then, right? That's like common sense.
Yeah.
So that means we are unable to proact, because our form of proaction was a reaction to their action. We're unable to proact. We're unable to be responsible because
Okay.
we're not getting called, because our
Yeah.
proaction was a consequence of their proaction. We're reacting to the buyer, right? Or the customer calling us.
Yeah. So
We're
we're
reacting to them calling us, because but so that's the only proaction we knew, was responding to the interest of the consumer, which had a relationship with the cost of money being less than it is now. The cost of money changed.
yeah.
So if it goes higher, there's less customers calling us. So now there's something out of our control changed. I would think that would create discomfort, right? Dis-ease, disease, anxiety. What's the future going to bring? When's that phone ringing? So then it becomes a question about, well, what do I do now? What can I do?
Pick up
What
the
am I?
phone. You need to be proactive. That's it. I mean, and
But
these
how are
people
you proactive if the only proactive you knew
at some
was the
point.
reaction of other people's proaction? That's the question.
So here's the problem, and it's a great case. And I have a friend of mine who, um, great originator, like um, they're going to do okay this year. Probably about 100 loans. But it'll be one of their worst years. And they're depressed about it. Like they're and all of their businesses coming to them, from them just picking up the phone. It's still ringing, but they were doing hundreds of deals, and obviously 2020, 2021, unusual times, but they were doing hundreds of deals those months. But even actually, normal times, 2019, 2018, they were, triple digits easily. Um, but I remember this person when they got into the mortgage business, and I remember the hustle that they had, and they were proactive. They went, visiting real estate offices. They went, to every networking opportunity that they could. They, acted like they were, already doing 100 deals, a year, when, they were not in that position. And now they're tired. They're comfortable enough, actually, that they don't need to go out there. But they're also, upset and almost down, because they're not, they don't have that fire in them. They don't have that fire to be proactive, to pick up the phones anymore. And now they're just being reactive, and there's just less people on the other side being proactive to take advantage of, not great rates. So it's being comfortable. You can't, this is not the time to be comfortable. And if you want to be comfortable, then okay, then be comfortable knowing that your growth is not going to be something that you need to, the growth in volume is not going to be how you need to measure your happiness. And maybe there's something else. Maybe there's some other interest that you need to focus on, whether it's being a better parent. Maybe there's other priorities, and not to beat themselves up over, a, well, utterly seemingly great production year, but in compared to their
Well,
history.
I would
Yeah.
say that if anyone isn't doing the action, so you think about action, right? How do we define it? If I'm reacting to the proaction of consumers under the guise that I'm being proactive because I'm doing my job, I'm facilitating a transaction. The
Mhm.
question becomes, am I actually acting? Am I acting because if I'm reacting to the proaction of the consumer, my role as the entrepreneur is to proact, it's to take on risk, it's to envision the future, it's to create that next, it's to create that next future, that next reality. Because in think about this, there's always going to be a cycle. So what we do in the downtime, action wise, will dictate where we're at in the uptime. Like the action in the
Yeah.
downtime, that's the time to work like never before. It's all
Yeah.
backwards. It's all
Yeah.
backwards. Like it's all
100%.
backwards.
Yeah. The
It's the
down.
time to work proactively like never before. But the incentive structure is it takes some level of thoughtfulness and planning and camaraderie because and counsel because the incentive structure, the economy incentivizes us the way, if we're an entrepreneur, the way the employer incentivizes us with a check. Like the entrepreneur that's gonna win big is self-incentivized. They're not getting
Mm.
their power from the money. They're getting their power from something else. And the times when the money is scarce is the time where the power is revealed. Something else is driving them, something attractive. It's like all the talent is just gonna, flood to them, all the opportunity, and we're not gonna see the profit until later. We're not gonna see it until later. So, dang, I would just press on whoever's being conditioned by the environment right now to take their foot off the wheel and rationalize. If you were a bad parent before this, you're just a bad person. So
Yeah.
get the help you need.
It
And the
comes
help
to,
you need is probably, therapy, counseling, advisors,
yeah.
um, uh, medicine, maybe a few books, a synagogue, a mosque,
Go to
church.
church.
Yeah, a cult. So I just like there's so yeah. What comes to mind? In that tirade there. It's like
It's really, it comes back to our conversation. It's not just having hope, because hope is basically saying actually that you want things to change, and you're not willing to engage with resources, that you're not willing to be excited about the downtimes. I mean, you just want to be reactive, like you were able to in the up times. And listen, I said this on a previous podcast. A friend of mine on a webinar we were doing, and he just said it great. He's like, nothing exciting happens in up markets. It's the down markets. It's now. Like, this is the exciting stuff that happens, because the up markets, you're basically just reacting. All you're doing is saying, okay, whatever bed I made, during my down times, I'm dealing with that now. And in the up times, you just kind of going boom, 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 boom. You don't have time to adjust. You don't have time to plan. You don't have time to screw up. And in the down markets, you could test things out a little bit, you could experiment, you could have conversations, you can spend time, like, say, listening to podcasts, audiobooks, to find ways, actually, to do things better. So like, this is
hold
the
on.
time.
That's the piece that I think is BS. If
Listening to
I'm not doing
podcasts.
that, if I'm not, so here's what, yeah, everyone listening to this, stop listening. Go to work. And this is why. It's paradise.
He's such a bad
Here's why.
salesperson.
If I didn't do that in the good times, I'm not ready to get to work now. So here,
Whoa.
proactive in this is I'm gonna post this shit on threads. This is from this guy. Proactive in good times is no, then yes. Proactive in bad times is yes, then no. So okay, it's good times, right? Business is coming to me like crazy. My ability to say no is going to dictate my level of proactivity.
Okay.
Because if I can't say no, I can't say yes to the future. I can't plan. I can't proact. I can't. If I'm getting a call from somebody that wants to work with me, they've already made their decision. So, and I've earned that from them, maybe over time, doing work, building brand, what have you. But my character is tested in people that tell me no, not people that ask for me to say yes. So the more I just say I take orders, the less rejection I'm facing, the less my character is tested. And this is one of the inner contradictions of growing a business, is like, once we get to the top, we're not tested anymore. So when times are good, my proactivity is going to be based on my ability to say no and then yes. Because if I can't say no to what's coming, how can I how can I say yes to the subservience necessary to call or meet that prospect that doesn't want me? So, and you think of it from like a hierarchical standpoint, somebody that's at a level of, let's just say, use a grading of like 1 to 10. There's a level 3 business owner, there's a level 7 business owner, level 9 business owner. The level 3 business owner needs to get to the level 7 business owner to level up the company. The level 3 business owner, though, is getting calls all day in the good times by the level 1. So if all they're doing is saying yes to level 1, 1 and 3 is 4 divided by 2. They're at a 2. Right? Because they're a 3 and they're getting 1s calling them. 3 and 1 is 4 divided by 2. They're not a 3, they're a 2. Now, if they're a 3 calling 7s, to do that, they have to be able to say no. 3 and 7 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. They're a 3 on the way to 5. By the way, whenever I talk to, I always get crazy. I never thought of it like this till right now, but that's a good diagram. Like, pretty simple way to explain power. The way I've gone from being, obscure, wacky and obscure to wacky and in power with influence is what I'm talking about right now. going from a level 1 to level 7 to level like I'm just I've lived this. This is why it's so easy coming so naturally to speak. It's like it's exactly what I did. Like,
It's because you've been able to figure out the formula of the successful advice and guidance that you've given people. Like
to
as
survive.
time, yeah, survive. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, man, you know,
Do
I remember
you
being a bouncer, right? 4 nights a week and thinking the relationships in this room will get me that opportunity to labor outside of this death trap. Right. It's like going from one job to the next. All right, I've got 3 jobs. The average income based on each per hour is this. Let's get rid of the lowest job and get a higher job to raise my average income up. Man, from squalor, right? To go from without any education or anything, like to try to figure out how to get to the next level, how to get to the next level. I don't think that ever stops, Andrew. Yeah, I interview so many people, millionaire, decamillionaire, centimillionaire, thousandaire, homeless almost, indebted, not billionaires yet on the show, but like it's all relative. The decamillionaire is a joke compared to the centimillionaire, is a joke compared to the billionaire. The way they view the world is different.
Yeah.
Their relationships are different. How they navigate. So if we're in a good time, if I'm a 3 of power, I've earned the right for the 1s and the 2s to call me and want to do business with me.
No.
And I'm saying if you add 3 plus 1 is 4 divided by 2 is 2. So my actions are at a 2 level, but I was a 3. Guess what happens when the economy goes down? I'm not a 3 anymore. I'm a fucking 2.
So, but does everyone go down at that point? I mean, is that
No, I think that the people that are able to say no and yes in the good times, they were 3s and they talked to the 2s and the 1s, right? And they reached up to the 7s, the 8s, and the 9s. So the 3s that interacted with the 1s and the 2s, and then the 7s.
Yeah.
It's math, right? If you added the 3 plus 7 plus 2 is 12 divided by 3 is 4. So now when the economy goes down, they're a 4, not a 2. I know this is not be taken literally by the audience. It's just using some math to make a point about power, about influence, authority, and competence. If I'm talking to people that are ahead of me,
Yeah.
right? So I have 2 customers. One is below is coming to me, who sees me as a brand they want to do business with. I've earned that. They're below me in power. They likely are smaller. Then there's exceptions to the rule, but let's say by and large, they're smaller. They're trying to climb up. They look at if they're calling me, they see me above them.
Mm-hmm.
If they're, so I now need to be doing the same thing to climb the ladder. I need to be calling people I see above me. If I get a customer, I could get one customer right now today that pays more than all of our customers for the same thing. And so could anybody listening to this.
Yeah.
They could build a relationship with a company that becomes that one source of their revenue. Like if they're right, they could a person can sell 10 houses at $1 million each, or they could sell 1 house at 20 million. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And when the times are good, we're reacting to business, and proaction starts with no, then yes.
Interesting.
Because I need time to call the 4s, the 5s, the 6s, the 7s, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s, and so on if I'm a 3. And now the bad times, this is where I interrupted. The bad times, right? Oh, it's time to massage your feelings. It's time to read more. It's time to podcast. It's time to go for walks with the spouse. It's time. Fuck you. It's not time for any of that shit. If you weren't doing that in the good times, what were you fucking doing?
Downtime is a misnomer. That's
downtime is the time. Exactly. Yeah, it's all
yeah.
language.
You should not be. You should never. So you said something there that it's like You said you were surviving. You said, and Jay, I've never met you in the entire in the since since Christine connected us. You've never associated you with a survivor. You've never had the surviving mentality. You've had this thriving mentality. You've always actually grown. You've always actually said, "What am I going to do? How am I going to, how am I going to,
Andrew, if I didn't have that mentality, I would be in despair. When you lack the pedigree, when you lack the surname, when you lack the resources, when you lack the access to capital, when you lack the education, when you lack the culture, when you lack all of that, if you don't convince yourself that you're worthy, you're dead. You're going to end up in prison or dead. That's reality for people that have not been inherited anything, having the education, and there's millions of people and billions actually statistically, and the people listening to this may be in that position at another level. As Brad would say, we're broke on another level.
Yeah.
Like, so you're exact. I had that attitude of the spirit of success. There's a connection, I think, with behaviors that give you confidence. Like, I know if I'm really doing the right thing to succeed. But man, survival, if someone's in a position where they don't have means to eat and drink water and have shelter, they're in survival. If they have water and they have shelter, they can't go on dates because they're single and they seek children. They don't have capital to go on to date. They're in survival. Their whole fucking legacy is dead. So that's what, just to clarify, it's like, man, I moved out at 18 years old. I was in survival.
Yeah. That's
what I meant.
I hear you. Yep.
And it's survival. And damn, entitlement is the fruit of success, bro. That's the big fruit. Entitlement is the fruit of success. And
meaning
entitlement
that
sucks.
So entitlement is the fruit of success. So explain, but rather than me,
it's fucking Adam and Eve, right? She eats that apple and shit. Like it is over. If that's a metaphor, it's like didn't she eat the apple in the garden?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Entitlement. We're having fun today. I gotta go. We gotta do part 3.
So we're gonna leave off on
Dude,
an
by the
Old
way,
Testament
this
thing
made me
here.
think, what if we did some of these live? Because when we talk, I had no idea we'd get into this shit. Like,
Okay,
how fun would that be?
Listen, we were doing it a little bit with Lucido.
Who the hell is that guy?
Yeah, I know. I think that's what we need to do. We need to do a live and maybe bring Lucido into it.
That would be ideal. I guess I'll finish that metaphor. So Eve eats the fruit, right? And then all this bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
If I do all the right things to get my business to that next level where it's producing fruit, it's producing profit, that's a temptation, man, like that fruit. And if you eat that fruit, bad shit happens. Be careful. Be careful. Don't be blinded by the fruit. Bad times humble the fuck out of us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're prepared, we'll be working harder than we ever worked, smarter than we ever worked, and we were a good parent, good person the whole time. And that's the good times reveal your poor character, and the bad times reveal you for who you really are. And so don't listen to podcasts and go on walks and shit in the bad times. Work. And also do that, because you were doing that the whole time. Because like you said, it's just a time. Time is a constant. It's these other things outside that are changing, like how we relate, how proactive are we really? So, what do you think?
I mean, I think I mean how it's a relative term, I think I think if you are comfortable where you are to what you've achieved, you're not going to be proactive. If you've accepted your position, and there are just people that are tired. If you're hungry and you're not willing to accept, and just because you're a deca millionaire, but actually you want to be 100 millionaire, or you want to be a billionaire. Well, whatever it is, if you still have that fire inside of you, you're going to be proactive. You're gonna, whether it's not listening to podcasts and actually just doing the work, or strategically listening to podcasts because you are actually trying to figure out, ways to step up your own podcasting game. But you just have to realize that all activity is either survival or thrival. It's almost like a scale. Like, you either are trying to survive and maintain the level that you're at, or not lose, or thrive and grow. Like, it's we could probably put it on a scale from 0 to 100, and 0 to -100 of survival to
Mm.
thriving. And at the lowest end of survival, is basically just like, you are scared and just trying to figure out how to protect your physical self, whereas it just goes from there.
Oh my God.
And then
You did it.
thrival is, and I'm the level of proactivity is probably in sync with this -100 to negative, or +100 scale.
We're all literally surviving psychically, like a pendulum. When we were talking about that 0 to 100, 0 to -100,
Yeah,
psychically, like psychologically, like a pendulum, you're saying thrive and survive, right?
yeah.
I could be thriving because everything's in a vacuum. Psychologically, I'm eventually going to have the yes man effect. Pride comes before the fall, where I have not enough criticism on the left. If I'm stuck, that's the bully. If I'm stuck on the left, -100, I'm surviving. I'm the loser. My life sucks. I'm in despair. I'm depressed. I'm making an argument. You want to be in the middle, 50-50, suffering.
A little bit of
You want to
suffering.
suffer. You want to just suffer, and you want to be okay with suffering and welcome the suffering,
Yeah,
and don't delude yourself to be doing too thriving,
a little
and
anxious.
basically anxious, afraid of, yet courageous. It's like balancing
Optimistic.
contradiction.
Yeah, yeah. Like, actually, at any point you could lose your lunch, but you're going for that steak dinner.
Well, that depends on the arguments of the people around you.
What, if they're vegan or not?
Sure, it could be like,
Yeah,
I
no.
screw up so many things. Like, that's why I have Jenna to like course correct me. Hey, Jay, and then like 3 days later, after I was, bitching for 3 days, you're right about everything. Like, you were right the whole time. Like, now, how much was she right versus she changed my mind? It doesn't matter. She was right.
Same thing.